If you have too many friends, you're probably weak. Now, I know that sounds harsh, but stick with me for a second, because chances are you've been sold a lie your entire life, and you never even noticed. Since childhood, you've been conditioned to believe that the more people who surround you, the more successful you must be. That popularity equals value. That being liked by many is the ultimate sign that you've made it. But what if I told you that's not only wrong, it's dangerous? Let me paint you a picture. Imagine a man who seems to have it all. He's always out, always laughing, always surrounded by people. His phone is constantly buzzing. Social media loves him. On the surface, he looks invincible. But when the noise fades and the crowd disappears, he feels hollow. Because none of it is real. The laughter, the likes, the friendships, they're all surface level. He's known by many, but understood by no one. Now contrast that with another man. Quiet, mysterious. His circle is small, sometimes non-existent. But when he speaks, his words carry weight. When he moves, it's with purpose. He doesn't chase approval. He doesn't fear solitude. Because he's built something stronger than popularity. He's built presence. And that's what the world doesn't want you to know. You've been taught to seek validation, not self-mastery. You've been told that being alone is a weakness, not a discipline. That you're only as valuable as the number of people who like you. But that belief system keeps you stuck in a loop, forever performing, forever pleasing, forever insecure. Ask yourself this: if you took away the parties, the group chats, the social media, and the constant noise, would there be anything left? Would you still feel like someone? Or would your entire identity collapse? Here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people don't fear loneliness, they fear themselves. They fear what they might discover in silence. But a man who faces that silence and conquers it can never be controlled. Because once you stop needing the crowd, you become unstoppable. Number 1. Social validation is a trap. Let's be honest, most men don't even realize they're addicted to approval. It's subtle. It starts small. A compliment here, a like there. Someone laughs at your joke, and it feels good. Someone praises your work, and your chest swells with pride. There's nothing wrong with enjoying recognition. But here's where it turns toxic, when your sense of worth becomes tied to it. That's the trap. Social validation feels like confidence, but it's a counterfeit version. It's like borrowing money from a lender who will one day come to collect, with interest. Because the moment you depend on others to tell you who you are, you've handed them power over your identity. You're no longer the driver of your life. You're a performer, dancing for applause. Let's talk about social media for a second. Do you really think it's just entertainment? No, it's engineered addiction. The platforms are designed to hook you with tiny hits of dopamine, training your brain to crave approval. One post, 2 hours of checking. One story, endless swipes. But after all the scrolling, you're left emptier than before. Why? Because none of it lasts. It's validation on a leash, constantly pulling you, never setting you free. And it doesn't stop there. Even in real life, men shapeshift to fit in. At work, they become who the boss wants. With friends, they become what the group expects. On dates, they play a character instead of being real. They forget who they are because they're too busy being who they think they need to be. This constant approval chasing is exhausting. You're always on, always calculating, always reacting. One moment you feel amazing because someone complimented your outfit. The next, you're spiraling because someone didn't reply to your message. You ride this emotional roller coaster, not realizing you gave someone else the controls. Here's the question that changes everything. What if you stopped performing? What if you were just you? Imagine the power in not caring what people think. Not out of arrogance, but because you're rooted in something stronger than opinion. That's not detachment, it's clarity. When you break free from the trap of needing validation, you don't become cold, you become calm. Unshakable. And once you no longer chase approval, something incredible happens. People respect you more. Because deep down, we all admire the man who doesn't need us to clap for him. Number 2. The strength hidden in solitude. When most men hear the word solitude, they flinch. It sounds cold, empty, like something's missing. We've been conditioned to see being alone as a punishment, not a path. But that's exactly why most men never become truly powerful, because they're terrified of their own company. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you sat alone, in silence, without music, without distractions, without your phone, and just listened to yourself think? If that idea makes you uncomfortable, good. It means there's something there worth exploring. Because here's the truth most won't tell you. Solitude is not loneliness. Loneliness is the pain of being disconnected. Solitude is the peace of being deeply connected to yourself. Think about history's most grounded, most fearless men. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor, wrote his deepest thoughts in solitude. Nietzsche walked alone through the mountains, contemplating human nature. Seneca reminded us that a man is not poor without friends, but poor who cannot be alone. These were not sad, isolated men. They were masters of the inner world. Solitude is where you sharpen the sword. It's where you break apart the lies you've believed about yourself and rebuild with truth. When you're alone, there's no one left to impress. No masks to wear. Just you and the raw, unfiltered version of who you are. And that is where the real work begins. This is where strength is born. In the quiet. In the questions that scare you. In the discomfort of facing what you've avoided for years. It's not easy, but that's why most people avoid it. And that's exactly why you should lean into it. You see, in solitude, there's no applause. No likes. No one to pat you on the back. But there's also no noise. No pressure. No performance. Just clarity. That rare moment when you see yourself, not through the lens of society, but through the lens of truth. This is where self-trust begins to grow. Where your intuition becomes louder than outside opinions. Where your values become clearer than any trend. And slowly, a quiet confidence begins to emerge, not the kind you show off, but the kind that anchors you. You become steady, rooted, unshakable, not because life is easy, but because you faced yourself and didn't run. That's rare. That's power. So next time you feel the itch to fill the silence, to call someone, to scroll endlessly, stop. And instead, sit with the silence. Walk with it. Learn from it. Because in solitude, you don't just escape the noise. You meet the man you were always meant to be. Number 3. Loneliness versus solitude. Know the difference. There's a big difference between being alone and feeling alone, but most men never learn to separate the two. And because of that, they run from solitude like it's a sickness. But here's the irony. It's that very fear that keeps them weak. Loneliness is a craving. It's the ache of wanting connection and not having it. It's a hollow feeling, a sense that something vital is missing. But solitude? Solitude is a choice. It's not rooted in lack, it's rooted in abundance. It's the act of saying, I have everything I need right here in me. You can feel loneliness in a room full of people. At a party, in a marriage, at work. You can be surrounded by dozens, even hundreds, and still feel invisible because your soul isn't being seen. That's loneliness. But you can also be completely alone, on a walk, in your apartment, in nature, and feel whole. Feel calm. That's solitude. And that distinction changes everything. Loneliness pulls from your energy. It drains you. It whispers, you're not enough. But solitude builds. It strengthens. It says, you're learning who you are. Here's where it gets powerful. When you stop confusing solitude with loneliness, you take your power back. You stop fearing silence. You stop chasing filler. You stop needing company just to avoid discomfort. Because real men who are grounded, clear, and calm, they don't fear the quiet. They respect it. They seek it. They use it like a weapon. Solitude becomes a tool, a training ground, a place to recalibrate, to heal, to process life without distortion. And in that process, you stop being at the mercy of noise, of opinions, of distractions. You become independent, not just financially or physically, but mentally and emotionally. So here's the challenge. Next time you're tempted to avoid being alone, ask yourself, am I avoiding loneliness, or am I rejecting the gift of solitude? The answer will reveal more than you think. Because when you finally see solitude for what it is, not a prison but a sanctuary, you'll realize, the man who is at peace alone is the man who can face anything. Number 4. Why smart men keep their circles small. There's this quiet truth that no one tells you. The stronger a man becomes, the smaller his circle gets. Not because he hates people, not because he's antisocial, but because he finally understands the weight of energy. In your 20s, it's normal to want a crowd, to say yes to every invite, to keep your phone buzzing. It feels like progress, like being needed, like seen. But somewhere along the way, if you're paying attention, you realize most of it is noise. Surface level, distracting, draining. Smart men begin to filter. They start to notice which conversations leave them feeling lighter, and which ones leave them feeling empty. They observe which people challenge them to grow, and which ones just pull them back into mediocrity. And slowly, deliberately, They stop entertaining what no longer aligns. It's not that they become cold. In fact, they become warmer, but only with those who've earned it. Because intimacy to a wise man is sacred. It's not handed out like candy. It's reserved for those who bring truth, depth, and loyalty. Think about it. Would you rather have 10 people around you who barely know the real you, or 2 who would show up at 3 a.m. without a second thought? Would you rather have 100 followers? Or a single friend who speaks into your life with brutal honesty and unwavering support? See, there's a myth that says being social equals strength. But the reality is, discernment is strength. Knowing who belongs in your life and who doesn't is not just wisdom, it's survival. Because here's the truth no one wants to admit. Not everyone around you wants to see you win. Some are just watching. Some are waiting. Some are hoping you'll fall, because it validates their own lack of progress. So yes, be kind. Be respectful. Be open. But be selective. Because your time is limited. Your energy is sacred. And your path is not for everyone to walk. The men who go the furthest don't travel in crowds. They move quietly with focus, and they surround themselves with very few, very real people. So if your circle is shrinking, good. That's not a sign you're failing. It's a sign you're evolving. Number 5. How solitude builds unshakable confidence. Confidence isn't something you fake until you make it. Real confidence, the kind that doesn't shake when people doubt you or criticize you, isn't built in front of a crowd. It's built in solitude. When you're constantly surrounded by people, there's always noise, always distraction, always feedback, wanted or not. And slowly, without even noticing, you start outsourcing your self-worth. You let their opinions become your compass. You let their approval dictate your direction. But step into solitude, and everything changes. In solitude, there's no one to impress. No performance to maintain. No one watching, judging, or commenting. Just you, and the raw version of yourself. And that's where real confidence begins, in the mirror, when no one's watching, and you can finally ask the hard questions. What do I believe? What do I want? What am I afraid of? Most people never pause long enough to ask those questions, let alone answer them. But you can't build self-respect without self-awareness. And you can't gain self-awareness without time alone. It's in the quiet moments, when you're walking with no destination, journaling in the early morning, or sitting in silence, that you start to see yourself clearly. You learn what truly matters to you, what you stand for, what you'll no longer tolerate. And when you have those answers, something shifts. You stop looking sideways. You stop comparing. You stop needing constant reassurance. Why? Because your confidence is no longer based on how others see you. It's built on how you see you. You become stable, centered, grounded, like a mountain, unmoved by the weather. The storms still come, people still criticize, life still throws punches, but you don't crumble. Because you're not propped up by applause. You're held up by conviction. This kind of inner security is rare, but it's magnetic. People sense it. They may not know why they respect you more, but they do. Because a man who doesn't flinch under pressure, who doesn't beg for approval, who doesn't lose himself just to be liked, that man commands respect without ever asking for it. And the best part, you don't have to try to be confident anymore. You simply are. Because solitude didn't just reveal your strength, it helped you build it. Number 6. Defying the pressure to conform. The world doesn't want you to be independent. It wants you to be compliant, predictable, safe. It wants you to follow the script, go to school, get the job, build the network, always stay connected, never rock the boat. And the moment you step outside that blueprint, when you choose solitude over social events, depth over small talk, truth over popularity, you become a threat. Because society doesn't know what to do with a man who doesn't need it. From a young age, you were trained to seek approval, from teachers, from peers, from employers, from strangers online. You were told fitting in is survival, that going with the flow is easier, that being alone means something is wrong with you. But let's be honest, conforming is easy. It doesn't take courage to say yes when everyone else is saying yes. It doesn't take strength to follow the crowd. What takes strength is standing still when the whole world is moving the other way. And make no mistake, there will be pressure. Friends may question you. Family may misunderstand you. Colleagues may label you weird, too quiet, or antisocial. But none of that matters, unless you let it. Here's the truth. The greatest enemy of self-respect is not failure. It's fitting in at the cost of who you are. That's why solitude is so important. It creates the space for you to build clarity about what you believe, what you value, and what kind of man you want to be. And once you have that clarity, you'll stop trading your identity for approval. You'll start saying no more often, not because you're arrogant, but because you're aligned. You'll stop showing up to places where you can't be yourself. You'll start guarding your energy like it's gold, because it is. The man who defies the pressure to conform doesn't just survive, he leads. He becomes an example, not because he's loud, but because he's real. And in a world full of masks, authenticity is power. Number 7. The Stoic mindset. Build a fortress within. The Stoics had a powerful idea. You can't control the world, but you can control how you respond to it. And that one principle, if truly understood, can change your life. Because when you step back from the noise, when you stop chasing validation and embrace solitude, what you're really doing is reclaiming your mind. You stop reacting to the world and start mastering it. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, wrote in his private journal, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That wasn't just a quote, it was survival. He ruled an empire, faced betrayal, loss, and war, and yet he turned inward, not outward, for stability. That's the Stoic mindset, and it begins in solitude. You don't build a fortress in the middle of a battlefield. You build it in quiet, brick by brick, with intention. In the same way, your mind becomes unbreakable when you train it daily, through reflection, discipline, and silence. When a man spends time alone, truly alone, something powerful happens. He starts noticing his thoughts. He learns which emotions rise without invitation. He catches the triggers before they turn into explosions. He begins to take ownership, not just of what he does, but of what he thinks and feels. That's when confidence becomes permanent. Because it's no longer based on external factors, looks, money, attention. It's built on discipline, on clarity, on the ability to remain still in a chaotic world. Imagine being so mentally grounded that no insult can destabilize you, no rejection can break you, no loss can destroy you. That's not arrogance, that's inner freedom. But let's be clear, it takes work. Stoic strength isn't inherited, it's earned. Through practice, through journaling, through moments where you want to escape into noise, but choose to stay in the silence instead. And the reward? You become untouchable, not because bad things stop happening, but because your response is no longer dictated by them. You don't lose your center. You don't collapse. You endure, adapt, and move forward with purpose. A Stoic doesn't seek the easy life. He seeks the powerful one. And solitude isn't his weakness, it's his weapon. Build the fortress. Build it now, because the world will test you. And when it does, your strength won't come from who's around you. It will come from who you've become within. Final reflection. Solitude is the ultimate freedom. Let's strip everything away. No followers, no friends, no status, just you. Would you still feel like a man of value? That's the final test. Because when everything external disappears, what's left is everything internal. And that's the only part of you that can't be taken, canceled, or controlled. So many men chase freedom, financial, physical, even sexual, but they ignore the most powerful form, inner freedom. The ability to be alone without anxiety. The ability to sit in silence without needing noise. The ability to face yourself without flinching. This is what solitude gives you. Not loneliness, not exile, not isolation, but clarity, focus, and the strength to build a life that's not just full, but real. And here's the irony. The more you embrace solitude, the more magnetic you become. Because the world doesn't need more people who crave attention. It needs more men who don't need the crowd to validate their worth. You become rare, and rare is valuable. So here's the challenge. Carve out space for solitude. Make it a practice, not just once, but consistently. Walk without your phone. Sit in silence. Write your thoughts. Reflect, not for content, but for truth. Because the man who no longer needs the world becomes the man the world quietly respects. Solitude isn't the enemy. It's the path. And if you walk it, you won't just find peace, you'll find power.